People who grew up in the 1980s have a very specific kind of psychology, the kind you can't fully explain to anyone born after the internet. It's a generation raised somewhere between cassette tapes, the street outside, and the strange feeling that the world was safe, but also somehow not really. And yes, a lot of things from their childhood would look like call child services today. But those very years shaped a mindset you can still see in how they think, react, solve problems, and deal with life. If we put it simply, they grew up in a world that was getting faster, but people themselves still carried real resilience. First, they grew up without the internet, but already with choices. There were TVs, cassette players, arcade machines, early consoles, yet the real world was still their main playground. Psychologically, this created a strange mix, a brain that loves technology, but absolutely doesn't depend on it. People from the 80s don't panic when the Wi-Fi dies. They're more like, okay, I'll find something else to do. I grew up in an era where entertainment had to be hunted down manually. And yes, they know how to be bored, something most people today have forgotten how to do. Second, their childhood was free, but slightly more civilized than the 70s. Kids from the 70s were basically told, come back whenever. The 80s had a bit more structure. Bike helmets existed, nobody wore them. Safety rules existed, nobody followed them. Parenting manuals existed, nobody read them. In reality, you could disappear for half a day, play with random kids outside, climb construction sites, and nobody treated it like a national emergency. This shaped their core mentality. I can handle it. Don't overcomplicate things. Third, they grew up inside a decade of constant change. The 80s were full of acceleration. Computers, music, fashion, politics, culture. Kids who lived in that chaos absorbed one simple lesson. Life changes fast. Learn to adapt. That's why people from the 80s have a unique superpower. They function well in stability, but they handle chaos just as easily. Both feel normal because their childhood trained them for it. Fourth, they were the last analog emotional generation. They experienced emotions without the internet. No likes, no typing bubbles, no scene 2:17 p.m. If you argued with a friend, you didn't send them a dramatic paragraph. You just showed up the next day and said, "So, are we playing or not?" Psychologically, it built something adult modern brains struggle with: the ability to reconcile, to wait, and not turn every small issue into a catastrophe. Fifth, their parents were strict but fair. The world was changing fast, stress was rising, money wasn't always stable. And this taught 80s kids two things. 1. You do what needs to be done, not what you feel like doing. 2. No one is coming to rescue you. If something broke, you fixed it. If something didn't work out, you tried again. If something annoyed you, you lived with it. This built the inner stability that still makes them reliable, grounded, and surprisingly calm. Sixth, they were the bridge between the slow, real, analog world and the digital, instant, loud one. People from the 80s are walking contradictions in the best possible way. They can read a paper map but know every button on a smartphone. They remember real childhood, not digital childhood. They can be gentle, but turn tough instantly if needed. Talking to someone from that era always feels different. They're not trying to impress you. They're not competing with you. Their confidence comes from lived experience, not performance. And here's the main point. The psychology of the 1980s generation is a combination of freedom, the streets raised them better than any club; adaptability, change was their baseline; resilience, their childhood didn't spoil them. And yes, they do feel older than their age. Not in the way they look, but in the way they process life. Now, a question for you. Who do you think had it harder? The 70s, the 80s, or the 2000 generation? And tell me this, which decade are you from? If this video made you look at yourself differently, hit subscribe. We're breaking down the psychology of generations one by one.